So, will Kevin Stefanski get the boot if he doesn't get the Browns to the playoffs? Could Mike McCarthy be spared if he takes the Cowboys to the NFC Championship game? And could Todd Bowles get his pink slip if the Buccaneers don't make it to the playoffs? Well, we'll see if we can try to answer those questions and many more as we bring you another special off-season edition of Fantasy Football Fever, which starts right about now. And a pleasant good evening, everyone, or good morning, or good afternoon, however you're watching, wherever you're watching, on Facebook or on Twitch. This is Fantasy Football Fever for April 7th, 2023. My name is Tim McClellan, joined as always by my partners in crime, the one and only John Flynn and the one and only John Natali. How you guys doing?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good here. We've been getting lots of rain for the last couple of days here down in northeast Texas. Flynn, how's the weather where you are?
Yeah, so I was at the Mets home opener today, opening day at Citi Field, and we had a backdoor cold front that came through last night, and it was it felt 30 degrees colder today than it did yesterday.
Ooh.
Yeah, we were in the 70s yesterday, and now we're in the 40s today.
Yeah, we definitely felt that cold front about I think it was yesterday or the day before. But
Yeah.
Natalie, you're over on the northwest portion of the country. What you got?
It's starting to warm up a bit. It's getting into the upper 40s, early 50s.
Yeah, we've been like today we were in the high 50s, low 60s, and supposed to be in the low 70s tomorrow. So at least we'll probably have a break for the rain. But it's good to have you guys back here again after a couple of weeks off, and we have a very special edition for you today. We came up with a list of five. Each of us came up with the list of five head coaches that could be going into the 2023 season on the proverbial hot seat, which means it's probably going to be make or break time for some of these coaches. And Flynn just made a nice little graphic here. I'll just go ahead and bring that up right now for everyone to see. And looky here. Ooh. This list is very interesting. This is very, very interesting. Uh, I guess Flynn, will start with you here. First name I see is Brandon Staley, the head coach of the Chargers. Chargers have been struggling, so this is make or break time for him, I guess.
I mean, I wouldn't say struggling because because he's got he's got an uber talented quarterback and Justin Herbert on a rookie contract, and the last 2 years have just been a waste, and a lot of it and to me a lot of it has to do with his brain in terms of in game decision making, and it goes back to week 18 of the 2021 season where the Raiders were basically begging the Chargers to make the playoffs because of that crazy scenario where the Chargers and the Raiders would have made the playoffs if that game ended in the tie. And then he decided to take the time out with 2 minutes left. That allowed the Raiders to advance the ball into field goal range. And then it allowed the Raiders and then the Raiders did wound up making that field goal from Daniel Carlson. And it put the Raiders in, and it put the Steelers in the playoffs in the process, and then it left the Chargers out. So that was his first year, and then last year, so you had a couple of games slip away, and then in week 18 with the Chargers already locked into the 5 seed in the AFC playoffs with the Ravens losing earlier in the day. That Sunday to Cincinnati, and Mike Williams got hurt and he wasn't able to go in the Jacksonville game the following week, and that turned out to be a big problem because Herbert didn't have a reliable number 2 receiver to throw to in the second half, and the second half it was a game where the Jaguars were down 27-0, and then they came back and the Chargers basically played in prevent mode, and for someone with a defensive background, that was simply unacceptable for the Chargers to blow that lead. So look, yeah, the Chargers are already picked up. I believe they already picked up the 5th-year option on Justin Herbert, and they're talking about long-term contract extension. And in order for that to happen, the Chargers are probably going to have to cut some of their contracts that are turning really bad rather quickly. So if the Chargers can't get the job done this year, I don't know what the case is for Brandon Staley to stay. I think if the Chargers don't win a playoff game this year, I think Brandon Staley's. I think they're going to change coaches in LA with the Chargers.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Of course, I have Brandon Staley on my list as well. And I don't really see Staley on Natalie's list, even though I think Natalie said Staley was kind of an almost for him.
Yep, just barely. I would say if we had a top 10, he would be on there, but it's just easier to limit it to 5.
Right.
He's definitely in consideration. I just couldn't quite put him on there because I feel like my other ones are more worthy than him.
Right. So we got Staley there. There is one coach that we all agree on, and that would be Ron Rivera, the head coach of the Washington Commanders. So, Flynn, your thoughts on Rivera?
I mean, you look at. I think last year, I think similar to what happened with Staley. I mean, it was the game that basically decided. The game that decided who would make the playoffs in the coming out of the NFC East between the Giants and the Commanders, and Brian Daboll completely and thoroughly outclassed the living heck out of Ron Rivera when it came to the play calling, when it came to the mistakes that Washington made both offensively and defensively, and the quarterback situation is still in flux, and they're going with Sam Howell as the quarterback. I mean, I mean, we're going to see what happens. Now, I like Sam Howell. I liked him in the draft process. So, but does that mean that Ron Rivera is going to be shielded from that? Probably not. And also, Ron Rivera has a defensive background, and his defense is uber talented, obviously, and sure, you could talk about the Chase Young ACL injury, but they're too talented up front defensively not to make things happen, and they grossly underachieved in the first half of last season. Their defensive line. One of the reasons Washington did not make the playoffs because of their poor defense in the first half of the season. So, lot of pressure on Ron Rivera, and Washington. I think it's going to be one of the teams in my consideration to make the playoffs because you always have some different teams making the playoffs year in year in from a different year, and I think Washington's going to be one of the teams I consider. So, a lot of pressure on Ron Rivera this year, Tim.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Former NFL Coach of the Year back when he was with Carolina. And now I guess that they've let go of Carson Wentz. They're letting this new guy come in and see what happens with the Commanders. Yeah, I could see them make a little bit of noise in the NFC East. Can they compete with the Cowboys, or could they compete with the Eagles? And, of course, the great year that the Giants had this past year. Um, I think the NFC East will probably be the probably most interesting division to watch coming this year, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in
Yeah.
Washington there.
Yeah, and also and for each of these teams, and this is for all four teams in the division, they're going to have much tougher schedules than they did last year uh, because they had the benefit of playing the NFC North, which you had with the Bears and the underachieving Packers. Um, and then they played the AFC South, where they all got Jacksonville. I know Washington, Philly, and the Giants all got Jacksonville before they got hot. That's it. But the rest of the division was terrible. You have the two of those four teams drafted in the top four in the draft. So I think that says about that division. But they all have Buffalo, Miami, the Jets. They all have them. They all have San Francisco. We'll see about Seattle this year, but it's a much tougher schedule out of the division than last year.
Mm-hmm. Natalia, your thoughts on Ron Rivera?
Oh yeah, he's been a mess these past few seasons. Ever since he left the Panthers, he just hasn't been the same. He's been a bit wishy-washy, horrible decision making, horrible play calling. It's kind of reason why Washington's been in last place for the past couple of seasons. I mean, granted they were good at one point, but they've just fallen apart lately. And it's what I always say: the manager or the coach is the glue that holds the team together. And when everything falls apart, that's on the manager.
Yeah.
He just lost complete control of them, just like he lost control of the Panthers.
Yeah, and while you were away, John, I was talking about the Sunday night game between the Giants and the Commanders and how Dable completely outcoached him and outclassed him, and that was the difference between the Giants making and missing the playoffs and Washington missing and making the playoffs at the end. Because we knew the winner of that game was going to the playoffs, and Washington did not come out with the sense of urgency that night.
Right.
And it was especially because I believe Washington was coming off their bye week as well, so which made it that much worse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, we have someone who wants to say hello.
Oh.
Alex Putnam, A Pizzle 90.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we would like to know your coaches on the hot seat, too.
Yeah.
Hey, Pizzle, I think I left the link in our group chat on Facebook. If you want to jump in and make some comments, we would love to have you. If you're not too busy, of course.
Right.
Yeah, because we'd love to have your opinions on who you think would be on the hot seat, and basically for anybody. Here I'll just we go ahead and I think I could just paste that right in here.
Lucas, if you guys are out there, yeah.
Yeah, maybe my fellow horseman, Lucas, Sear. Hey, here we go. If any of you out there want to jump in and let us know who you think is on the hot seat, maybe you agree with ours, maybe you have someone that we've not mentioned, there's the link right there. Right there, right? Well, it's actually covering John Natale's face. I mean, we don't intend, we don't mean to do that. It's just how the thing is set up. It's just how the thing's set up.
I can make myself taller.
Oh, there you are. There he is. Yeah, he's with us. So click on that, get on that, paste that, and put it into your browser. Join us. I'll bring you in, and we can talk about who you have for your selections for your hot seat head coaches. And now, speaking of one who is really on the hot seat, next name I see on Flynn's list, Josh McDaniels, the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, and anybody who has been listening to this podcast over the last over the last 15 months know how much I vehemently disagreed with the Raiders hiring Josh McDaniels as the head coach. for the Raiders. I mean, he's a fake Belichick tough guy. He clearly didn't learn his lessons from that disaster in Denver, and since then the Raiders have downgraded the quarterback, the roster. I don't think the roster is as good as was last year with Derek Carr out of the picture, and even then I picked the Raiders to win 6 or 7 games, and that's exactly that's exactly what happened there. So I think on those accords, I think McDaniels is clearly on the hot seat, and the thing is, I think he's going to be a 2-and-done coach this year. It's because the Raiders are not making the playoffs in that division with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, and Justin Herbert all in the same division, and I begged the Raiders to blow up the roster and rebuild, and it's because they weren't going to win anyways if they had a roster that they wanted to go for, because you have the best quarterback in the NFL who has 2 Super Bowl rings before the age of 28, and the Raiders decided to go for it recklessly, and Josh McDaniels coming in as the coach didn't make matters any better. So Josh McDaniels was I know McDaniels was like number 3 on this list, but he clearly was the first name I put in.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Natalia McDaniels is not on your list as I see, but I'm sure you have a few comments.
Yeah, I mean, I was considering him, but I want to give him the benefit of the doubt here since they lost David Carr, so he was the leader of that team.
Derek Carr.
Since there's a little bit of a rebuild going on, I want to give McDaniels the benefit of the doubt. I want to see how he does with his new team first. And if he has a poor performance but stays around, then I could easily put him on the hot seat for next season. But by virtue of him having a new team, I think he's safe.
Interesting. Very interesting here. Yeah, well, I've kept my eyes on the McDaniel situation. And yeah, as Flynn just mentioned, we've been talking about the last 15 months, even before the season began, that McDaniels was in my opinion, in our opinion, a terrible hire for the Raiders. Next on Flynn's list, one that neither Natalie nor I have, but it's a very interesting one. Todd Bowles, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
This one's interesting.
It is interesting because he's been because his team won the division last year, but let's face it, Todd Bowles couldn't coach his way out of a paper bag all year, and think about what needed to happen for the Bucs to make the playoffs and win the division. They needed to overcome a 16-3 deficit against the defunct New Orleans Saints, a team coached by Dennis Allen. You have to think about it, that they were down big time against the Rams late in the game, and they needed the heroics of Tom Brady to win both of those games. And if Tampa doesn't win either one of those 2 games, they're down in the playoffs. And Todd Bowles, what was bad at his job with the Jets with a similar roster. I mean, with the exception of the quarterback, it was similar in terms of the talent from the Bucs, but. You needed the kind of rigid structure for a team coach that coaches Brady, and now he doesn't have his that anymore, and it looks like Kyle Trask might be the starter for the Bucs week 1 if they don't make any changes as soon, and that's probably not going to sit well in a division which they're going to see the Saints upgrade with Derek Carr. The Panthers are going to upgrade. I think the Panthers have had a marvelous offseason so far, and they're going to get their choice of their franchise quarterback in the upcoming NFL draft in just 20 days from now. So So I could very much see a scenario there where if you look at if the Bucks win 5 or 6 games, and I think that's the direction I think I'm going when it comes to the Buccaneers, and that's probably going to mean a pink slip for Todd Bowles.
Interesting.
Interesting there, yeah. Natalia, your thoughts on Todd Bowles?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of thought about putting him on my list, but I didn't because I don't think it'd be. I think you're kind of firing him after one miss. I think would be unfair. They're in basically a rebuild situation. They got to get a new quarterback now, and they have to get a new running back because Leonard Fournette is gone. Ronald Jones is gone. I mean, while their defense is still pretty good, I mean, their offense definitely needs an upgrade. Foles might not be the greatest coach. I mean, he's led them to the playoffs every single time, but I think firing him after one miss, I think, would be unfair. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt here. See what the new team looks like, and then we'll go from there.
But I mean, the counterpoint to that though is that there have been teams that have seen a coach make the playoffs in year one as that coach, and then missed the playoffs the following year. And I could think of an example where a team where a head coach retires, and then the new head coach is one of his assistants. And makes the playoffs rather flukishly, and then the following year he gets fired because he's terrible at his job. And that specific example I'm looking at is what happened with the Giants after Tom Coughlin retired.
Yeah, I knew you were going to mention that. I knew you were going to say that.
And also think of in 2016, the year the Giants went 11-5 and made the playoffs. The offense simply just wasn't good, and he was supposed to elevate the offense because you have with that, and it just wasn't good. And then the following year, the Giants start 1-9, and then McAdoo gets fired after he benches Eli Manning for Geno Smith, which was maybe the most. As bad as Gallivan was as general manager, I think in the 10-year run from after the Giants Super Bowl to when they hired Daboll, I thought that was the most offensive decision of all. Benching Eli Manning and subsequently ending his consecutive game started streak, which had been in place for 13 years at that time.
Right. Yeah, I definitely don't want to hear McAdoo and Giants anymore.
I also don't think you want to hear Pat Shermer or Joe Judge for that matter either.
True.
I don't want to hear.
I can't figure out which one of the three was the worst. That one I cannot figure out. That's a hard one.
I mean, it is really hard to top the quarterback sneak on 3rd and 9 in Judge's last game.
Yeah, actually, between Shermer and Judge, it's hard to pick who's worse between the two.
Definitely Judge.
Yeah. I'll give McAdoo a pass because he at least led him to a playoff once. I'll give him a pass.
But also, I mean, Sherman was a good coordinator before he became the Giants coach. But McAdoo hasn't made matters any better didn't make matters any better in Carolina, and yet he's still the
coordinator I miss the most is Steve Spagnuolo. I miss him the most.
Yeah, he wasn't as good the second time around as the first time, but. But yeah, he just won a second Super Bowl with Kansas City as their defensive coach.
Yeah. Very interesting right there. So, Nick, and the last name I see is one that neither Natalia or I have. That would be Robert Saleh. That would be from the New York Jets.
Yeah.
And I could have. I could agree with that. I mean, I guess the Zach Wilson experiment didn't quite go according to plan. So Flynn, what you got on Saleh?
and I think Salah. I think Salah has a similar situation to what Eric Mangini had 15 years ago with that 15 years ago, the Green Bay Packers traded a future Hall of Fame quarterback to the Jets and Brett Favre. Then the Packers start really well. Excuse me, the Jets start really well, and then they collapse, and Eric Mangini's out of a job. But by the end of that year, and granted, and even with if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, I think they're in the conversation to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. We still want to see what happens with Buffalo. We still want to see about Cincinnati and Kansas City. Right? If I'd still put all three of those teams ahead of the Aaron Rodgers led Jets. So, but I mean, given that Salah's in-game coaching has not been great, and Salah's demanding the receipts. Remember that press conference last year? So it's where after the Jets, I think it was after the Jets beat Pittsburgh. No, it was. I think he demanded the receipts, and he started claiming that he thought the Jets were going to be better, but if the Jets, I mean, with Aaron Rodgers, I don't think the season's success unless they win multiple playoff games with Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think that's going to happen. Because I just think the AFC is just so damn good and so competitive. I mean, and not just those teams. You got to look at the Chargers. You got to look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a team that I think could make a playoff run. Because they have the coach and the quarterback, and Trevor Lawrence, I think, is that type of guy, and I think he's going to be he's going to be on my list of top 10 quarterbacks going into next season. When I released that list at the start of training camp, and you also can't rule out Pittsburgh because they nearly made the playoffs with the rookie quarterback. You can't rule out a team like the you can't rule out Denver, obviously. So it's gonna. I mean, if the Jets were in the NFC, I think they're one of the two or three teams that could make a run to the Super Bowl in that conference. But alas, they're in the AFC, the conference of Allen, Burrow, and Mahomes, and that's the reality of that situation.
I definitely agree with that. Dashy, how you doing? Thanks for watching. We'd love to hear your comments on who would be on the coaching hot seat right there. Of course, let me see that comment he made. But Joe Mixon in trouble with the law. Do we know anything about that?
I did see something. Yeah, I did see a headline. He was recharged with aggravated menacing. So off the field issues for Joe Mixon again.
That is not good. That is not good at all, especially since Joe Mixon is probably one of the best players on that Cincinnati team right there.
Mm-hmm.
It'll go be interesting to see if they can get to the top of the AFC North division right there. Thanks for the info, Dashy, and thanks for watching. Let us know who you would have on your coaching hot seat. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I'd be interested to hear everybody else's. Can't make the show, you can just drop a comment in the comment section, and we'll see what happens here. Well, we've gone through Flynn's list now. Natalie, he's got Ron Rivera. And now one name that Natalie has and that I have, but Flynn does not have, of course, is Kevin Stefanski, head coach for the Cleveland Browns. I think he's been pretty much on the hot seat at least for the last 2 years. So, Natalie, we'll go ahead and get your thoughts on Stefanski.
Yeah, pretty much the Browns team has been a mess. And let's put Baker Mayfield aside, like he doesn't exist. despite him being bad with the new team, they still have a solid running back duo in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And somehow a good offense is being used for nothing. Stefanski cannot lead an offense at all. And then they have a decent tight end in David Njoku. They have some good solid receivers here and there, but for some reason this coach cannot lead them at all. Last place. What's up with that? That's what I want to know. I am absolutely confused about this team. I really don't know what to say. How can he not lead those running backs? The running backs are literally carrying this team for nothing.
I think both of those running backs are pretty good. Flynn, your thoughts?
I think that I think the Browns are a team of dysfunction, but I don't think Stefanski is the reason behind it. I mean, you look at the dumb owners. I mean, and everything that they did, not vetting Deshaun Watson. Now, I think Deshaun Watson could make for a productive quarterback in the NFL next year, and I think that's just the talent level that he brings, but clearly not the same player as he was with the Texans when he was a top 5 quarterback in this league. But can the Browns make the playoffs? I think there are teams that you have to consider as well. Given you have that, and you have a defense led by Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. So they do have the talent there, but I don't think Stefanski is the reason why the Browns have been bad. I think it's just been organizational dysfunction. Oh, and also Kevin Stefanski led the Browns to their first playoff win in 26 years in his first season there. So you gotta give him credit for that.
That's fair, I guess.
I think I would give him a pass for that reason here. I guess it's just the guess maybe ownership, why they want to run things here. I'm not sure, but I mean, if they're not going to use those two good running backs, who else you got? You know, I mean, I can agree with that here. Next name on the tally's list is one that I also have on my list too. That's the head coach for my Dallas Cowboys, Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, and so why do you have McCarthy on your list, Tim?
Well, good news is, I mean, McCarthy helped the Cowboys get to a playoff win last year against a pretty bad Buccaneers team led by a pretty bad Tom Brady. They got that playoff win, but of course, it was just terrible against the Niners again. Second year in a row, getting knocked out of the playoffs by the Niners, this time in the divisional round. And that last play that they ran, that looked like something out of Pop Warner. That did not look like anything from either college or pro or XFL or anything like that. It looks like kind of like a made-up thing, and it just made up on the spot. It's just bad calling, but at least I am glad that they got rid of Kellen Moore and they brought in Brian Schottenheimer as the offensive coordinator now. And
go on, Tim.
I'm just wondering what that little laugh was about.
Replacing Kellen Moore with Brian Schottenheimer. I mean, you guys have no idea what you're in for. You guys have no idea.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, with the additions of guys like Brandon Cooks and like Brandon Cooks for the defense. I mean, for the offense, and of course Stephon Gilmore for the defense here. But so to replace Moore with Schottenheimer, I will say it'll be interesting. I'm not exactly sure, but I'll say it'll be interesting. So, with that said, Natalie, let's hear your thoughts on Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a decent coach, but he's always getting too many one and dones or like a lot of early exits. The Cowboys. This could be that they're one of those teams where, like when we talked about our teams that made the playoffs the previous year but could miss out this season, I think the Cowboys could easily fit this category. Because the Giants have made an improvement, the Eagles have made an improvement. The first three teams are very stacked. Eagles, Giants, and Cowboys. You can make an argument for either one of them winning the division, but and the others could be in danger of missing the playoffs. And if the Giants could somehow get over the hump and pass the Cowboys, I think McCarthy is in major trouble. I mean, if McCarthy doesn't change his coaching ways, I could easily see them being third place in the division and him possibly getting the pink slip.
Interesting right there. Yeah, I can see that.
But Jerry Jones is kind of lazy. I mean, he used to know what he was doing, but he just he's been falling apart. I think since like the mid 2000s.
Yeah, but I mean the one thing I will say about this, I think the caveat with the McCarthy Schottenheimer thing is Mike McCarthy is going to call the plays instead of Stefanski, so I do think that that's a positive. So, but I still don't think I think when it comes to firing a coach, you come to we come to think of replacements and the big speculation last year was that if the Cowboys fired Mike McCarthy, they would replace him with Sean Payton. Well, Sean Payton is now in Denver, and so who knows the potential replacements that Jerry and Stephen Jones can make when it comes to the head coach, which is why I think Mike McCarthy is why he's not on my list. Plus, the Cowboys should win 10 or 11 games anyway.
Yeah, so and this is just my opinion, but since now Sean Payton is out of the question, if Mike McCarthy gets fired, I would say they go ahead and it's just my honest opinion. Y'all can fire shots at me if you want to, but I would say that I would promote Dan Quinn to head coach.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I
agree with you because I have McCarthy on the list. So I'm definitely green just for that reason alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what Dan Quinn has done with the defense has just been nothing short of phenomenal.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a little hiccups here and there, but mostly the defense has been very, very solid over the last couple of years.
But I also think when it comes to head coaches, this is an offensive driven league, and 7 of the 8 coaches that made the divisional round were offensive coaches. So you can say things all you want, but teams with offensive minded head coaches over the last the last 3 or 4 years have won Super Bowls. When you think of McVay with the Rams, you think of Andy Reid with Kansas City, and then other coaches that have been to the Super Bowl. You look at Nick Sirianni, who was the offensive coordinator before he became the coach of the Eagles, and then Zach Taylor, offensive coach. And just look up and down. Who made the playoffs in the divisional round? Mike McCarthy, Brian Dable, offensive coaches. And then you look at Doug Peterson, offensive coach. You look at then you look at Reed, obviously offensive coach. The Kyle Shanahan, offensive coach. And the lone exception to that was Sean McDermott. And the exception is because the quarterback was coached up by a brilliant offensive mind in Buffalo and Brian Dable.
Right. Okay. So that's our thoughts on McCarthy. What one name Natalie has that neither myself nor Flynn has would be Sean McVay, the head coach of the Rams. Yeah, they win a Super Bowl one year, then they fall off the next year, and so far they really haven't made a big splash in free agency. So Natalia, how do you see McVay on the hot seat?
Yeah, this is one of my on the fence picks. And if I remember correctly, I think I remember I think ESPN or NFL. I think they said he was the first coach in NFL history. I think that led a team to a Super Bowl, but then I think have the worst record the following season. I think it was something to that degree. Uh, that was crazy on how that happened. He went from fantastic coach, and then the following season just went. He took a he somehow took a nosedive. Granted, there were some injuries here and there. I mean, losing Cooper Cup was a big blow, but the Rams they still have that next man up mentality. They should have, despite what happened, they should have been able to win a wild card there, second place. The Cardinals are bad. I mean, the Seahawks, they kind of got lucky. The Rams easily should have passed two of those guys despite the injuries. McVay somehow lost his mojo there. If they miss back-to-back playoffs, I'm pretty sure he's going to go.
Okay. So I mentioned McVay. Natalia has Rivera, and we have all talked about Rivera. We all each have Rivera on our list. Last name on Natalia's list, one that neither Flynn or I have. Atlanta's Arthur Smith. Now, I'd say for maybe the last couple of years, the Falcons have been playing without a real identity.
Mm-hmm.
So, Arthur Smith, tell us about him.
Yeah, looking back now, I think this is kind of my on the fence one, but looking back, I think this is a name I should not have put on my list. Now that I think about it, I kind of want to retract my statement because I forgot at the time about Matt Ryan being let go. I'm one of those people who likes to give the benefit of the doubt if they have a new team. Arthur Smith is going to have a new team here, so I don't know. I kind of want to retract my statement on Arthur Smith and agree with you guys on Brandon Staley. I mean, despite Falcons being bad, I can't really say it's Arthur Smith's fault. So I honestly want to retract my Arthur Smith statement because I forgot about Matt Ryan getting cut.
Yeah.
So that was kind of on me.
Yeah.
I'm retracting Arthur Smith, and I'm going to agree with you guys on Brandon Staley.
I mean, the argument I would have made against Arthur Smith is that the Falcons had maybe the second worst, maybe the worst roster in the NFC, and he still won 7 games. And there was a point where, late in the season, where the Falcons were in first place in their own division. So, and just in spite of the lack of talent on the defensive line, in the secondary, when you take out their star on defense, the quarterback situation was in flux all year. So I think one of the great coaching jobs in the NFL last season, and obviously Dable got the accolades because he took the Giants to the playoffs, but Arthur Smith deserved a lot of consideration for Coach of the Year because a bad roster still won 7 games.
Yeah. That he was the 5th person on my list. He was the guy I had trouble with. So looking back, as rough as the Falcons have been, I can't put the entire blame on him.
Yeah. So,
but my thoughts about McVay and the others still stand.
Yeah. Yeah. But there is another thing to this because when the NFL expanded to the playoff teams in it was from 12 to 14 in 2020, there was a coach that didn't make the playoffs in 2020 and 2021 that still had a job the following year, and that was Matt Rule, who got fired mid-season. Right. So I wonder if that could be the case for all the coaches that were hired that year, that cycle, because I know Arthur Smith was one, Brandon Staley was one, Robert Saleh was one. So I think those were the 3 coaches. I mean, Dan Campbell was also one, but I think we expect the Lions to win the division, so that's why he's not on the hot seat. But if the Lions don't make the playoffs, I think there's going to be some talk about Dan Campbell. As noble a job as he's done with as bad a situation as it could get.
Yeah, he'll probably be on my hot seat for next season if they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah,
but right now I do see the Lions as a division runner-up.
Yeah.
I can't see them passing the Vikings right now, although it's possible.
Yeah, it could be possible. Of course, I've got the Lions winning the division next year, but of course Minnesota's definitely going to make them work for it. Dashy, he made himself a list of hot seat head coaches. He's got McCarthy. He's got Stefanski. John Harbaugh. We have not really said anything about John Harbaugh. Let's talk about Harbaugh.
There could potentially be something there because when you think of how the Ravens botched the Lamar Jackson situation, I mean, Lamar Jackson when he's on the field, the Ravens are as good a team as there is in the National Football League, and without him, they're not particularly good. So I think John Harbaugh should have taken a more a greater role when it comes to decision making from the top. Now, I think now Eric DaCosta is general manager, and I think he's one of the great general managers in this league today. But I vehemently disagree. I could see some logic with why they wouldn't resign Lamar Jackson because under pressure he doesn't have great pocket presence. Because he isn't a natural thrower of the football. So I think when it came to some of his playoff losses, I mean, I would look particularly at the one against Tennessee. When Derrick Henry ran for nearly 200 yards against that Ravens rush defense, which I thought was so impressive, that he couldn't overcome him not being able to throw the ball inside the pocket. Then the same thing happened the following year in Buffalo, where the Ravens had to brave the elements and the wind, and the wind was a big time factor and a big advantage to that game in favor of the Bills. And the advantage was going to go to the quarterback that was a better natural thrower of the football, which at that point was Josh Allen. So that is not a bad idea though by Dashy putting John Harbaugh in that conversation. Another name was Kyle Shanahan. I mean, Shanahan. It was Shanahan's idea, I think, to trade up for Trey Lance, but that turns out going to turn out to be a disaster. But I don't think the 49ers are gonna fire Shanahan. This year, I just don't know who the replacement would be. So same thing with the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy. You guys both agree on bringing up Dan Quinn, but I disagree with that because he's not a defensive coach, and in a quarterback-driven league, you kind of need an offensive-oriented coach. So which is another reason why I disagreed with the Cowboys bringing in Schottenheimer. I mean, because Schottenheimer was one of the reasons Seattle hasn't won a playoff game since. I think they only won one playoff game, and that was because the other team's starting quarterback got hurt, and they had to play Mike Glennon. I think in that game.
Mm-hmm. And let me see that other name. Yeah, Todd Bowles. Yeah,
I totally agree with him on Todd Bowles, and both of you agree with him on McCarthy and Stefanski.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Dashy. Very interesting list you got there. So that's pretty much the coaches that we feel. Oh, I had a couple other names. As I mentioned about, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I had gone through like 9 different sources online on the subject of coaches that could be on the hot seat. Arthur Smith, I did see his name about on 4 different lists, but I'll kind of retract that for the same reason as Natalie did. Uh, One name kind of stood out, Dennis Allen for the Saints.
Yeah, that's a good one, but I don't think he's going to be on the hot seat because I think the Saints are
No.
going to make the playoffs.
Me neither. And not only that, I have right now, as of right now, I have the Saints winning the division.
Yeah.
So the Saints can take back the South from the Buccaneers. Matt Eberflus from the Bears.
Yeah, I disagreed with that because the Bears had such a bad roster, and I do like Eberflus. I think he's gonna get a chance this year because of all the money the Bears spent out in free agency, and you have Justin Fields as well. So I don't think it would be dumb to do two and done because remember the general manager was played a big role in hiring the head coach.
Yeah.
So I don't think Eberflus is going to go if Ryan Poles is going to go.
Right. Yeah. So let's approach what I had here.
Yeah.
I actually based my list on how many lists I saw their names. So these were the ones that came up from what I saw.
Yeah, and we were talking before the show, and I think Natalie. So because another name that Natalie brought up before we went on the air, but didn't make his list, and you can elaborate on this, Natalie, is Matt LaFleur of the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, so I'm one who likes to give the benefit of the doubt. I had to take the team on paper right now. That was kind of what it was. And right now on paper, they still have Rodgers as their quarterback. And despite them having a rough season, I think he's still going to be okay. And even with the new quarterback, I think they'll still be just fine. Kind of like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Jordan Love will do just fine, I think, in his place if Rodgers officially goes.
Yeah, but
I mean, losing Alan Lazard hurts a little, but I think Jordan Love is ready. I think they have that next man up situation, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah,
maybe not a playoff team, but
but this is not the same thing as going from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and I disagree with that. And I think of all the drama that happened with the Packers over the last 3 years, and that was because Brian Gutekunst drafted Jordan Love, and not only did he draft Jordan Love, he traded up and drafted Jordan Love.
That's right. That's right. I think I now remember that they did trade up to get Jordan Love.
And I remember the three of us were on the. I know you and I were on the server, one of the servers that night, and the night of the draft, and you remember I went ballistic when live. You remember that, Tim?
I believe so. I believe I remember that.
Yeah.
What, someone picked Love in our draft?
It's I got in the year the Packers drafted Jordan Love. I mocked Jordan Love to the Packers in the first round. Now I didn't think they were going to trade up and draft Jordan Love, which made it all that much worse.
Oh, never mind. I misunderstood you. I thought you were talking about our fantasy draft. I misunderstood you.
No, then it really was so.
I
mean, it's because I knew the Packers were going to need a the Packers were going to feel like they needed a quarterback because they were going to have to move. They felt they needed to move on from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite moments in the draft history.
Oh yeah. I definitely remember that. So the Aaron Rodgers situation is still in the air. Lamar Jackson situation still in the air. Um, Is anybody want to reach out to Odell Beckham Jr.? I mean, what gives?
Yeah, and who are the Panthers going to select in the first round? Because Frank Reich apparently wants Anthony Richardson, but the Panthers brass wants C.J. Stroud. So it's going to be interesting to see who the Panthers draft and who really has the power within that organization. Is it going to be Reich or is it going to be the upper management?
Mhm.
I personally would draft C.J. Stroud if I were the Panthers.
Yeah, they definitely need a quarterback.
Yeah, the one thing that does scare me a little bit about C.J. Stroud is the Ohio State thing because you've had a lot of quarterback good quarterbacks at Ohio State that were stars at Ohio State, but really fizzled out when it came to the draft. The noted exception though is Justin Fields. So who is becoming who is a talented quarterback in the NFL this year? The last year. So
Yeah. I'll be interesting to see how I'll be watching Justin Fields with the Bears this year to see if they can make a little more noise than the last couple of years.
yeah.
So, and the Aaron Rodgers situation, it's still up in the air. He still says he wants to go to New York, but I guess Green Bay is not really that ready to let him go yet. I don't know how long this waiting game is going to go on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there was a deadline that if he is still on the roster, then he's going to be owed a good bit of money.
That's I mean, there's going to be obviously the dead cap hit that comes with it. So
Right. It's going to be very interesting there. So where is he going to go? Where's Lamar Jackson going to go? Odell Beckham Jr. Of course, like we said on our last show, Odell Beckham Jr. is no longer any interest for the Cowboys because we now got Brandon Cooks from the Houston Texans. So,
Yeah,
of course,
I can't see a Giants reunion either. The Giants added a bunch of receivers already.
yeah, and also the Giants only have $2 million left in cap space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so far, a lot of signs indicate that they're going to go wide receiver in the first round, or possibly a lineman.
Yeah.
yeah, because that's something we're going to be looking forward to because in a couple of weeks.
Yep, the draft preview.
Yeah. A couple of weeks on the 21st, we're going to be previewing the big NFL draft, which actually starts the following Thursday, 27th, which of course will be the first round. Then I believe rounds 2 and 3 is on the 28th.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 through 7 is Saturday, the 29th.
Yep, and then we'll have our recap after that. Probably the Friday after that.
And I believe this year's draft is in KC.
Mm-hmm.
Over in Kansas City, Missouri, the home of the defending Super Bowl champions. So, yeah, I'm going to be looking at my Cowboys and see what they really need for a draft. I'd say probably maybe a quarterback. Maybe we could probably use another defensive lineman. Maybe another safety. Although the safety issue, it hasn't really been that much of an issue for the last couple of years. But I mean, I could just take a look right now and see Trayvon Diggs on one side and Stephon Gilmore on the other. They could be a pretty interesting combination there at the corners.
Yeah.
I'm going to be. Yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
No. You're saying?
And if you're looking at some cap space numbers, the Cowboys have $13 million in cap space. The Bears still have the most with $37.5 million.
Wow.
So maybe the Cowboys could But I think what is the Cowboys are saving that cap space to sign their draft class. So
Maybe they could.
it's because remember the rookies have to earn salaries next year, so you got to factor those guys in.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll be taking a preview of that draft 2 weeks from tonight, folks. So hope y'all be around for that. And I'll be taking a look at the draft issues for the Cowboys and see what they're looking for. I'll check out possible top tens. I'll probably look for because I know Mel Kiper Jr. and Tom Shea, probably the two best draft gurus in the world, have already got their lists out. They've been making their list about, I think, every week. So I'll be taking a look at what they are projecting for each team, and we'll just see what happens. But, of course, we'll have our own draft preview 2 weeks from tonight, Friday, April 21st. So we'll be prepared for that. Anything else anybody wants to get off their chest?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing how this draft turns out when it comes, and I want to wish all our viewers a happy Easter.
Yeah,
Easter's this Sunday.
And happy Passover.
Oh yeah,
Happy Passover. Today, of course, Good Friday. Happy Passover. Happy Easter to everybody. Yeah, I didn't even know why I didn't even think of that. So,
I just realized it myself. I realized it myself just now, actually.
right. And, of course, Flynn's got Hooked on Sports. And, of course, we've got 3 major links down in the description area right there. So you can click on it. So you'll be able to hear John Flynn. So I guess you've got a mock draft coming up.
And I started my draft coverage on my podcast today because I dropped an episode earlier today with the with the issues on the quarterbacks and the wide receivers that are going to be going around 1 and how I think and also what I think the Arizona Cardinals should do at number 3, what I think the Philadelphia Eagles should do with their 2 first-round picks. So there's a lot on the table there, but I think one of the big things we're gonna be talking about is unless there's a major trade regarding the 3rd overall pick for the Arizona Cardinals, I think that's going to be a big topic of discussion on our next show in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
It's because they have a new general manager, Monty Ossenford, and it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to navigate what's going to be what it looks like it's going to be a quarterback contract in Kyler Murray.
Yeah. I'll be interesting to see what happens with Murray and the contract and everything going up in Arizona. But yeah, y'all be sure to click on one of those links and listen to Hooked on Sports for John Flynn.
Yep.
So hope you get all that ready. He'll be talking draft between now and then. So I guess that puts a wrap on our show for this week. As I said, we will reconvene 2 weeks from tonight, April 21st. We will have our NFL draft preview just a few days before the official draft begins. So y'all get ready for that. And I guess we can go ahead and sign off for right now. Thanks as always to my man, John Flynn. Thanks as always to my man, John Natale, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, take care of yourselves. I hope all of you will take care of yourselves too. See you back here in 2 weeks. Till then, for John Flynn and John Natale, I'm Tim McClellan. Thanks for joining us. Y'all be careful out there. Have a great Passover. Have a great Easter. God bless you all. As always, be a good sport. See ya.